The price tag's still on, you penny pincher. That's what a mom friend said, laughing at me. With those words, she started to mock me. Exasperated by her usual overbearing attitude, I decided to ask another mom friend to cut off the price tag for me. "Excuse me, could you please remove this?" The woman I approached was like one of her cronies. While mocking me, she reached out to take off the tag. But the next moment, they were all stunned by what the tag showed. I'm Stella, 32 years old. I work as a designer for an apparel brand. My husband works in HR there, and my daughter just started high school. Through my daughter, I made mom friends when she entered high school. One of these women is Isabel. She's 3 years older than me, and her husband is a government official. I also met Emma, a part-time worker, through Isabel. On days off, I'd reluctantly join them for lunch. To be honest, I never had a great impression of them. Isabel is bright and beautiful, but also very self-centered and throws tantrums when things don't go her way. She also flaunts her husband's earnings, looking down on and mocking other moms. I'm no exception. Because of my interest in fashion and my efforts to dress well, she targeted me and treated me like one of her entourage. Yet whenever I met her, she would criticize my sense of fashion and call me poor. I wanted to end this relationship with her, but my daughter had only been in high school for less than a year. I didn't want to cause trouble with a mom friend and make it difficult for my daughter. So I tried to subtly avoid Isabel and let her comments slide. But things were getting to a point where I couldn't ignore them anymore. "Listen, I'm going to build a new house soon." One weekend, Isabel called me out for lunch to share something she's said many times before. Today, it seemed, she gathered us to brag about her new house. Spending my precious weekend listening to Isabel's boasting felt wasteful. But I had been turning her down recently and thought it was time to face the music. It's in a prime location, in a posh neighborhood, with a huge lot. It was originally a model house, but I wanted to add my personal touch, so I'm thinking of adding a terrace and a counter in the kitchen. As Isabel cheerfully shared this, Emma asked, "Must be costing you a fortune, right?" Isabel beamed even more. I was a bit shocked when I saw the estimate, but with my husband's earnings, it was no problem. Emma exaggerated her praises, and I hurriedly added some simple words of admiration. Inwardly, I was sick of it all. Oblivious to my feelings, Isabel happily showed us the floor plans and the construction costs. I couldn't help but gasp. Noticing my reaction, Isabel raised her voice, artificially. "Oh no, did you see the bill?" and laughed. "You must be shocked, right? Such amounts are not usual for you, Stella. But for someone like me, it's normal. In fact, it's almost too cheap. Makes me nervous. Have you considered buying a house, Stella?" With a forced smile, "We can't afford such luxuries," I replied to her snide remark. Isabel seemed even more pleased with herself. Then she started giving unsolicited advice and pushing her brand bags on me. "I'll give you one of my bags. You haven't used the one I gave you before, right? Are you intimidated because it's a designer brand? Or does it not match your cheap clothes?" "But I don't have such low-end brands at my place. What a dilemma." While listening to Isabel, I recalled the high-end bag she gave me, not to my taste. Hesitant to sell it, I'd stored it away in my closet. Isabel then started boasting about how much she spends on beauty treatments. "This month, I spent over $5,000 on beauty. I think I should save more, but once you start, you want to do more and more. You know, people around should spend more on themselves too. Don't they realize they look like elderly women?" Spending on beauty varies for everyone, and with children, there's hardly any spare money to spend on oneself. I couldn't really say anything to Isabel about it. If I did, she'd probably dismiss it as just the jealousy and bitterness of someone poor. So I just kept quiet and let her talk. I was desperately hoping for this agonizing time to end soon. It seemed like Isabel didn't have any plans for the day, as she kept us occupied until the evening before finally leaving. At the end, Isabel mentioned she would invite us over once her new house was built. I wanted to decline, but I just wanted to get it over with and go home. So I accepted her offer and wrapped up the conversation. And then, a few months later, Isabel sent me a message about her new house. There was a photo attached showing a rare, sprawling lawn with a large garden, terrace seating, and even a fountain. Isabel was sitting on the terrace, waving at the camera. The photo must have been taken for her daughter. On closer inspection, the treats Isabel is eating are from an upscale confectionery. The strategic placement of the logo makes me think this is also a kind of bragging. Emma responded to Isabel's message immediately. She excessively praised as usual, not forgetting to compliment Isabel's style too. There's something admirable about Emma's commitment to this approach. I wish I could navigate these situations as skillfully as she does, but I'm not quite there yet. I was pondering what message to send back. Then, despite being in the middle of work, a call came from Isabel. I let my colleagues know before answering Isabel's call. "Hey, did you see my new house?" she asked the moment I picked up. I mentioned I was at work, but Isabel disregarded that and began talking. "The housewarming will be like a standing party in our large garden. I've invited a renowned 3-star chef to cook at home all day. You're coming, right?" "Yes, I plan to attend." "Just so you know, if you come in your usual poor-looking outfit, you might be embarrassed. I'm inviting other celebrities because of my connections. There's a dress code, so make sure to follow it, okay? After all, you're attending as my friend," Isabel said excitedly. I casually asked what the dress code was, and she even specified a price range. "You might find it a bit expensive, but pick a stylish dress so you don't embarrass yourself." With that, Isabel just hung up the phone. I sighed, returned to my seat, and got back to work. Then on the day of the housewarming, I wore a new dress for my company and brought a gift from a famous confectionery to Isabel's house. Isabel greeted me, sizing me up with an unusually graceful gesture. "Not bad." Hearing those words from Isabel, she snatched the sweets I brought in a rough manner. "Ah, this place." I couldn't help but feel astounded by her lack of gratitude as she inspected the sweets, but I managed to convey my congratulations and entered the house. Isabel immediately started talking to the celebrities. She seemed to want to use me as a foil, keeping me standing beside her. "This is my mom friend, though she's from a very ordinary family. Her husband's just a regular office worker, and I think they both work, right?" Isabel mocked me with her sarcastic words. Meanwhile, Emma had also arrived and was being used like a housekeeper. I felt uncomfortable seeing this. I came to celebrate, but I thought of making an excuse to leave early. However, Isabel seemed to have guessed my intentions and deliberately kept me there with her snide remarks. Then Isabel suddenly looked at my back and laughed. I wondered what it was and looked at Isabel, who sneered and whispered to me, "You've got a price tag on. Poor thing." Shocked, I reached for my neck. Sure enough, there was something like a price tag. "Did you buy a dress just for today? But you should have removed the price tag, no? Were you in such a hurry? Are poor people always this busy?" Isabel said this and laughed. Embarrassed, I tried to dash to the restroom, but Isabel loudly ridiculed me. "Really, you're so clueless. That kind of thing is only forgivable when you're young. You're over 30 now. Shouldn't you have some composure? Why not try to behave more like me?" Everyone, including Emma, turned to look at me. "Listen, Emma, she forgot to remove her price tag before coming here. She's really unsettled, isn't she?" Isabel said this with amusement, seeking Emma's agreement. Emma, on her part, exclaimed exaggeratedly, "Really?" and recoiled. "Stella, you must have been so excited about today's party." "I'd be too embarrassed to stay if it were me." Emma said this, laughing just like Isabel. Hearing her words, the celebrities around Isabel also laughed elegantly. Isabel was satisfied having embarrassed me and getting the reaction she wanted from the others. I wanted to leave immediately, but that felt like admitting defeat. Hiding my panic, I approached Emma and said, "Excuse me, could you help me with this?" As I said this and turned my back, Emma sighed. "Can't help it, can you?" and went to get scissors. I said a quick sorry and apologized to Isabel. Isabel, disliking my attitude, glared at me angrily. "Typical of the poor, not even fazed by a little embarrassment, are you?" Isabel said this with a sneer. To her, "Yeah, well," I replied. At that moment, an awkward silence fell between us. Emma came back and went behind me. "Hold still, please. Oh, I'll move your hair forward." Emma carefully moved my hair and pulled out the price tag. Then, she froze, holding the tag. Curious, Isabel asked, "What's wrong?" and leaned in to look, freezing herself. "What's the matter?" The two of them looked genuinely shocked, seeing their reaction. "Ah!" I exclaimed. Immediately after, Isabel yelled hysterically, "What does this mean? This price is a dress from a poor person." Isabel said this, pulling at the price tag. I grimaced and urged her to cut it quickly. Following my words, Emma cut off the tag. The two of them stared at the price tag again. I answered their questions. "This is a product of my company. As I've mentioned before, I'm a designer, and I wore this as it's our new release. Partly for promotion, I had the privilege of handling the design myself." Upon saying this, everyone called to Isabel's house turned their attention to me. Questions like which brand it was, or comments about how nice the dress was, suddenly made me the center of attention, overshadowing Isabel. This seemed to anger her. Isabel, entering the crowd forcefully, deliberately dropped the champagne she was holding. The spray wetted the hem of my dress, causing a stir among the guests. "I'm so sorry. I wanted a closer look at your dress and came over, but I didn't expect this. Since you wore this for promotion, it's not something you bought, right? Does this mean it has to be compensated?" Isabel said this, looking at me with a malicious smile, probably thinking I couldn't afford it. Backing her assumption, she added a taunt. "Your earnings can't cover this, can they? I'll pay for it." Isabel said, laughing. I just looked at her in disbelief. Then she must have thought I was shocked. "Don't worry. If necessary, I'll buy it off you." Isabel said this confidently, imagining my frustration, and laughed. I smiled at Isabel and said, "Don't worry about it," and then added, "because I bought this myself." As I said this, "Huh?" Isabel's voice rose in surprise. "Stop pretending. I know you can't afford this dress. Buying it would take your entire salary, right?" I reassured her again that it was fine. Isabel's irritation grew, her face turning red. "I earn quite well, you know. I may not usually wear expensive clothes, but as a designer, I often participate in events like Paris Fashion Week." Saying this as a comeback made Isabel's face turn pale. To add to her shock, I continued, "Didn't you know? I was the one who set the trend for this year's celebrity fashion." "A joke, right? I'm well versed in fashion, and I've never seen your name anywhere." "Well, my name is quite common, so you might not have noticed. Just search Stella Co. on your mobile phone, and you'll find it with photos." When I said this, "Really?" Emma, beside Isabel, exclaimed. She hurriedly showed Isabel her phone's screen. I watched as Isabel was struck with disbelief. The onlookers whispered among themselves, "Is that Stella?" and expressed their astonishment. "Unbelievable," Isabel said, stunned. Pushing past her, people gathered around me. I was willing to answer all their questions, valuing the celebrity connections. Isabel stood there pale, watching me. In the end, I enjoyed the party till the last. Throughout the party, people surrounded me, and I heard many rare and interesting stories. Seeing me have fun, Isabel looked resentful at first, but quickly brightened up when others praised her for knowing me. In the end, as usual, she jumped into the center of attention, starting her own boasting session. A few days later, I saw Isabel walking down the street looking downcast. Normally, she would use taxis or her luxury car, so it was unusual. When I approached her, she mentioned that her husband had found the party's bill, leading to a severe scolding. Even her daughter was exasperated, and Isabel was temporarily banned from spending money. If she didn't comply, she'd have to pay the entire bill herself, a challenging situation for the non-working Isabel. Hearing this, I was amazed at how much she had spent on the party, and was dumbfounded by her responsibility for it. Following this, Isabel became quite subdued. She stopped hurling insults or taunts at me, and the sudden calls and long phone conversations during work also ceased. My life returned to peacefulness. My daughter, doing well in high school, mentioned wanting to be a designer. Hearing that filled me with joy. Pursuing a passion as a career can be tough, but the sense of achievement is unparalleled. I hope my daughter experiences this too.